I'm extremely excited to introduce you to our dear friend, Ester Nicholson. Ester Nicholson is also a She Recovers coach, and she is a trusted advisor on our board, so on our She Recovers Foundation board. She's the author of Soul Recovery, 12 Keys to Healing Dependence. She's a speaker, a teacher, a healer, a recording artist, and a recovering addict who brings her incredible journey of transformation to practical curriculum, addressing the root causes of insecurity and dependence as they occur in contemporary living. Her soul recovery programs expand the traditional concept of 12-step recovery into spiritual practices that have healed thousands. Her musical career included worldwide tours with Rod Stewart and Bette Midler, with appearances on TV such as Oprah and The Tonight Show. Ester has inspired thousands with her keynotes at conferences and spiritual centers in her life-changing program, Soul Recovery, the Roadmap Home. That program bridges a gap between the 12 steps of recovery and fundamental spiritual practices, from alternative prayer and meditation to inner child forgiveness work and EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping. Ester's story of addiction and recovery was featured on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and her appearance on Super Soul Sunday in Deep Shift clearly touched a nerve for those who suffer from the debilitating experience of shame and not enoughness, and those who seek to connect with an authentic, healthy, and whole identity, free from suffering and all forms of dependence. Ester, I'm so delighted to have you here again. You were with us earlier, very early on in when we started Mental Health Monday. You did a fabulous presentation specifically on EFT, emotional freedom technique and tapping, and it was really well received. A lot of people didn't know anything about it until we introduced it to them, so we're extremely grateful to you for that. And at this time, I would just really like to turn everything over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Taryn. Thank you, beloved She Recovers community. I am really honored to be here today to share this powerful work, the Healing Code of Forgiveness, which I think is one of the most empowering and powerful processes of forgiveness, which truly sets us free. And I think in recovery, we can try so many other things, and all of those other tools and processes that we use, they work, they're wonderful. But until we get down deep into the cellular, unconscious root causes of resentment and trauma, and heal that virus, heal those viruses in our programming, that we're going to be hurting for a very long time. I don't think that it's possible to completely feel the freedom that we are so divinely designed to feel until that starts to heal. But let's be clear that forgiveness is a process. And I believe that it is absolutely possible to take a giant quantum leap in consciousness and just bam, I forgive, right? As that's not the norm, but it's possible. But my work is about allowing us the process of forgiveness, because there are so many different layers to get to the root cause, to get to the root, the core wounds that reinforce resentment and that reinforce trauma in the first place. So there's a process of allowing that inner child, allowing the ego, the part of us that has forgotten that we're one with wholeness. It takes time, and it takes a process to allow that part of us to feel safe enough to completely let go. So I had the privilege and the honor of presenting this workshop at the She Recovers, I believe, 2018 conference in Los Angeles. And it was very powerful, and so many people were transformed. And I am offering you that same experience today. Even though we're not going to go deep into the process today, I'm just going to give you all the information about forgiveness and about resentment and about trauma, how to heal it as I can in the time that we have together today. And I know that we want to take some time for Q&A, but I believe I'm going to take maybe 5 minutes and do a little tapping process with you at the end of this. So before I start anything, I like to start in affirmative prayer, affirmative acknowledgement. I like to start with just taking a deep breath. So I invite everyone to just hold their wrist, which is an acupuncture point. You can close your eyes if you choose. If you need to keep your eyes open, you can do that. And I want you to inhale deeply and exhale and say peace. As we bring ourselves completely into this now moment, into this present moment, just being willing to leave anything that's happened before this moment behind and leave anything that we're looking forward to after this workshop, leaving that, putting that aside as well. And just being here, giving yourself the gift of now. And in this gift of now, I know that there is love. I know there's support. I know that there is infinite possibility of healing and transformation. And that process has already started just by you being on this webinar, a participant in this webinar. So I bless each and every one of us as we are so courageously saying yes to returning to our authentic self, the part of us that is real, the part of us that is whole, the part of us that is free, the part of us that is just giddy with joy before it was emotionally or physically beaten out of us. We return to that place because that is your home. And I just bless every little girl in this class right now, just filling us with such love and compassion and validation and recognition of who you are. I am grateful. Amen. So let's be clear that forgiveness is the hardest thing to do. Forgiveness is the hardest thing you will ever have to do when you feel betrayed, abandoned, rejected, abused, violated, and traumatized in any way. It's easy to say, and so many of us have said this. So many of us are saying this. It's easy to say, I'm going to be the bigger or better person, and I'm going to forgive my offender. Or I'm just going to put the offense behind me, or time heals all wounds. But the truth of the matter is that the better and bigger person that you're seeking to be is actually a healed person. The bigger and better person is the healed person, because you can't put trauma and resentment behind you. You can bury it. You can remove it from your field of awareness. You can go into denial about it. But it is still running the show as a virus-ridden program in your unconscious mind. So time does not heal all wounds. Time denies or numbs out the wound. The wounds of abandonment, betrayal, rejection, abuse, and trauma, which then creates all of those illusions of unworthiness, not good enoughness, undeservingness, shame, all of that, right? They're simply awaiting the perfect conditions to explode. If they are unhealed, if they are unresolved, they're simply waiting the perfect conditions to come together to explode. There are times, I'm sure, when many of you have exploded about the smallest thing and had no idea why you overreacted to such a small matter, or to something that just should not have been a big deal. I mean, maybe you would have been irritated about it or frustrated about it, maybe even a little confused about it. But no, you lost your shit, right? And I can totally relate to that, because there have been times when I'm like, why the fuck am I on the floor in the fetal position about this thing that should have been so easily handled? You know, why? Because my little girl was fucked up. She was all that pain, all that trauma, all those stories, all those lies that I told to myself and that I allowed, and that other people told me about myself. They were unresolved and they were unhealed. So when something would happen to trigger them, even if it's something that should not have been a big deal, I should have been able to say, okay, you know, I'm not digging this situation. I don't really like it, but you know, I'm going to deal with it and it's cool, whatever. I'm going to walk away from it, or however I'm going to deal with it. But I didn't have the tools or the strength at times to do that, because I was totally re-triggered and re-injured by something that had never completely healed in the first place. So my personal story, a personal story I have about that, is many years ago, and this is when I really first got this, many years ago. I was making flight reservations with my oldest brother to go visit another brother who had injured himself, and he was in the hospital. Now, my eldest brother and his wife, they probably hadn't been on an airplane in 30 years. That's how they lived their lives. So they didn't know, you know, how to make reservations. They didn't, you know, they just lived a very, I don't want to say limited, but a very sheltered existence from the rest of the world. And they just didn't do things like that. But my brother at this time was willing to get on an airplane to go see our other brother. And so they asked me, you know, they said, here's our credit card. Would you, you know, make his reservation, you know, for the airlines and for the travel tickets and for the hotel. So I said, sure. So I got his information. I made his reservation. I made his reservations, and I sent them the itinerary, and I ripped up his credit card information because, of course, I didn't need it. Well, something screwy happened with his airline reservation. Maybe there was a change or something, or maybe there was some kind of change that happened with his hotel reservation, but because they're not travel savvy, they just lost their stuff about it. And it's like, what happened to our credit card? You had our credit card, and you know, what are these extra charges? And I'm like, well, first of all, what extra charges? And no, that's not what I did. Here's what I did. Here's the itinerary. And here's the telephone number to the airlines and to the hotel. You can call them and you can find out what happened there. So that was my truth. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. But 5 minutes after that call with my brother and my sister-in-law about what did I do to their credit card, how I misused their credit card, I was on the floor sobbing like a baby, holding my tummy, so hurt, so upset, and I couldn't understand. It's like, well, sweetie, you didn't do anything, so why are you so upset? It's like, that's their trip, right? Like, that's their trip. They need to figure it out. You had nothing to do with that. Whatever it is they're talking about, it's probably not even anything. They're just overreacting to something that they don't know anything about. Why are you overreacting? And so I did this work. The healing code of forgiveness and soul recovery, and the work that I'm talking to you about today. And in unpacking that, what I realized is that before I began my recovery journey, before I started my recovery, I was a thief. When I was a crack addict, even before I was a crack addict, I was a thief. I would steal from my mother. I would steal from my brothers. I would steal from my sisters. I would steal from my best friend, because I had this deep core wound and belief that that was the only way I could get my good. I had this deep core belief that I had to take it without you knowing it. And even though when this happened with my brother, I think I was maybe 25 years already into recovery, right? I'm 35 years right now. I was 25 years into recovery, but that deep core belief and trauma of always having to take something from someone else in order for me to have what I needed had never healed. The belief that I was just a cracked out thief, even in 25 years of recovery and practicing integrity at the highest level, there was this deep core virus in my unconscious mind that had gone unhealed. And so when the perfect conditions came together, that re-triggered that wound, even though realistically it should not have been a big deal because I hadn't done anything wrong, I still felt guilty and dirty and bad and small. And boy, did this work that I do in the Healing Code of Forgiveness, that it just healed that part of me, and it healed that wound. It healed that virus, that was my identity, that was who I was. And I gave myself mercy and compassion and love and clarity about who I really am. So your subconscious mind that's holding on to resentment and trauma, it's a lot like your computer. If there is a virus in the hard drive, your programs will not run efficiently no matter what you do. When you take your computer in for repair, if there is a virus in your hard drive, it usually cannot be repaired. It must be deinstalled. It must be removed and then replaced with a new hard drive. And the Apple Store will usually tell me whenever that has happened, when something has gone wonky in my hard drive, they're like, we hope that you've backed up your data, because we're going to have to take out your hard drive. But in this case, I don't want you to back up your data. I don't want you to back up the memories of your traumas and your resentments. We want to deinstall that sucker and install an entirely new program of who you really are. So we're not here to cope anymore. The Healing Code is not about coping or dealing with the trauma and the resentment and the abandonment and the rejection and the shame and all of that. We're not here to deal with it. We're not here to cope with it. We're here to heal it. And I'm here to tell you that healing is possible. That thing that's going on within you that you feels like, I'll never get over this, I will never get past it. I'm telling you, yes, you can. It's not being in denial about the events that created the trauma. It's not being in denial that someone betrayed you or abandoned you, or that was the appearance of it. It's not being in denial about the circumstances. It's changing our perceptions around the circumstances. And when we change our perceptions around the circumstances, then healing can happen. And then that experience is just that. It becomes an experience. For the most part, and there are times when sometimes, it's like, because we're onions, right? We have layers of this shit. And there are times when, I think it's like, okay, I've healed that, that's gone, I'm cool. And then something will happen, it's like, oh, whoa, okay, got a little triggered there. All that means, let's go deeper. Let's go deeper, let's go deeper, let's go deeper until it is gone. And then most of the time, when I talk about a story, I tell it as a teaching moment, like I just told you about the teaching moment that I had with my brother, because there is no longer any part of me that feels like I'm a thief and a cracked out, thief that someone can't trust, right? So effective forgiveness is the hardest thing you will ever have to do, but it is an emotional and spiritual requirement that you do it. Why is it a spiritual emotional requirement that you forgive? Certainly not in the traditional sense of forgiveness. In the Lord's Prayer, for instance, for any of you who have experienced religious abuse. My dad was a Baptist minister, by the way. In the Lord's Prayer, it says, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespassed against us," which would indicate that the only way that we can be forgiven by the universe or by God is that I have to forgive this person who abused, abandoned, and rejected me. That's not what that means. That's not what that means from a metaphysical, universal perspective. What that means is that God or higher power or divine love, or whatever it is that you choose to call it, is operating at a vibrational frequency. If you could see my hand here, is operating at the highest vibrational frequency that there is. It is the highest version of you. It is the you that created you out of pure love, pure joy, pure essence, pure truth, right? Before you bought the lie that you were anything other than magnificence and greatness and wholeness. It's operating at this vibrational frequency. But when we are hanging out in resentment and trauma and all of those in that false identity of unworthiness and shame and not enoughness, we're operating at this frequency, at this energetic frequency. So it's not that this frequency needs you to forgive or do anything in order for it to be the truth about you. You just can't connect from here to here. Right? This is operating at a totally different radio station, just to kind of simplify that. So if you want to listen to the music on 99.1 FM, you're not going to hear that music at 99.1 FM while you're on the radio dial of 88.2 AM. Even though this music is playing, you don't have access to it, but it is playing and it is there and it is real. So unforgiveness and resentment and trauma and those false identities that we hold on to, that needs to be healed, processed, healed, processed, healed, processed, healed, released, 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 until we recognize our oneness, our wholeness. Because that's who you are. Okay. So many of you are trying to forgive someone from the same energy of the resentment and trauma. And to quote Einstein, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when the problem was created. I just kind of switched up his quote there, because his quote says we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created the problem. And there is that aspect of the law of attraction that says we cooperate, we create every event that we've ever had in our lives. And I wanted to switch that up a little bit, because until you actually take the workshop, I don't want you leaving here thinking that any trauma or resentment that you've experienced is your fault. But there is a part of this work where we practice compassionate accountability. Compassionate accountability. So most of us hold on to a trauma long after, or resentment long after the event is over. And then we hold on to that event, we hold on to that trauma, and we continue to be re-injured by it over and over and over again. So the very meaning of resentment is to rescind something. Resent, it's, the 3 syllables, and that is resentment. So we are resending our unhealed resentments, are resending the signals of trauma over and over again throughout our system. And when the resentment or trauma is resent throughout our system, we remember, we relive, and we retell the painful event of our painful story over and over and over again, whether we're saying it out loud or whether it's just repeating itself in our consciousness over and over again. And then we are re-triggered and we are re-injured. So let me ask you, if a marathon runner attempts to run a marathon on a leg that never properly healed, what would happen? He would break down. He wouldn't get very far. She wouldn't get very far, right? So that's what most of us try to do, is we're trying to get unstuck, and we're trying to move forward in our lives. We're trying to experience joy and peace and safety and all those wonderful qualities on unhealed emotions. Look at the energy here. Look at the vibrational frequency here. Here's your wholeness, and here you're trying to operate. You're trying to access here from this energy, and it's never going to work. And then you start to feel hopeless and discouraged. But I'm here to tell you that there's absolute hope, that you can go from here, that you can grow from here to here. Okay? Great. So what is the difference between resentment? What is the difference between resentment and anger? I believe because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings. That is our nature. That is the truth of our beingness. And we are in a human incarnation. That anger, processed in a healthy way, is actually a healthy thing. Actually, anger is at a higher vibrational frequency than depression, right? Anger moves you into action. And if it's processed in a healthy way, it moves you to divine right action. It moves you to guided action. It moves you into pure action, right? So I call anger, when we're conscious, when we're doing our work, I call that passionate preference, right? But when that anger is unchecked and unresolved, it turns into resentment, where we're trying to move forward, but we haven't let it go, and it's continuing to re-trigger and re-injure us, right? So resentment, again, is when you've been injured by something or someone, and you can't let it go, and you're taking that resentment out on every area in your life, right? The difference between traditional forgiveness and soul recovery forgiveness, the healing code of forgiveness. Traditional forgiveness says, okay, I am so sick of feeling this. I, just want to move on. It's too painful to keep feeling this resentment and trauma. I just forgive it. I forgive this person, and I'm just going to move on, right? And even though you've set a pure intention, and there's something very powerful about setting a pure intention, it raises your vibration. It raises your energy field, right? But the thing about traditional forgiveness is it's still holding on to the story that this person or this experience did this to you, and that they are the cause of your unworthiness, you're feeling unworthy and shame and blah, 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 blah. So even though you might have been hanging at this frequency with this event or this person, and you've set a pure intention to forgive, so you've lifted your frequency just a little bit, but then you remember what this fucker did to you. So you jump back down here to this energy. And then you want to forgive again because it's too painful. So you jump back up here. So you just keep vacillating back and forth between really trying hard to forgive and then being sucked back in to the resentment. And then you just finally give up and say, screw it. If only they change. So that, so you try to make them change, make them apologize, make them acknowledge what they've done, and then I'll feel better. And I want to tell you that their acknowledgement, their apology, their change will never make you feel better. It's a temporary fix. It's instant gratification, but it doesn't heal your core wounds. It doesn't heal the virus in your hard drive. So soul recovery, healing code of forgiveness says, yes, I do feel abandoned. I feel betrayed. I feel rejected. I feel unworthy. I feel unloved. I feel not good enough. I feel unsafe. I feel hopeless. I feel damaged. I feel broken. But it's not because of you, person, that I feel this way. It's because I feel this way and I believe this way that I attracted you. We live in an orderly universe and nothing happens by mistake. So when we can approach this work from, wow, these core wounds, independent of this person and this circumstance or these circumstances, is actually a pattern for me. I just, about 2 months ago, I think it was, ended like an 8-week possible relationship. And I felt loss and I felt betrayed and I felt abandoned. But when I really sat down and did this work, I realized, pumpkin, that shit comes up for you all the time. That's a pattern. That has nothing to do with this person. It's just more of those layers that need to be healed. So let's go back in. Let's heal. We're not healing this experience. We're not healing this person. I'm healing the false beliefs, the illusions that something's wrong with me, that I'm not safe, that I'm not lovable. That's what creates those situations over and over again. Here we go. In this work, we are going to, in the healing code of forgiveness, how we get to the healing is we start the detox process. We start to detox from our stories. I want you to look at how many times you tell that painful story to yourself or to others. We start to detox from that story. We start the process of self-forgiving ourselves. We do deep inner child work where we start to heal that baby, heal that inner child within us that's on the floor in the fetal position. We heal all those illusions of abandonment and rejection and betrayal, because those are the problems, not the people, not the circumstances, not the external conditions outside of you. That's not your problem. The problem is the virus in the software, the virus in the hard drive. We start to heal that. All right. And then we make a new agreement, because even though you might not realize this right now, you have an agreement. I realized I had an agreement with unworthiness, with shame, with trauma, with struggle, with suffering. I made an agreement with it. I formed a relationship with it, right? So we need to break up that relationship. We need to create a new agreement with the truth of who we are. And as we make this new agreement by going through this healing code of forgiveness process, right? We make this new agreement. It is from this place that we can create something new. It is from this vibrational frequency that we can create something new. We want to stop trying to create something new from the old frequency, and we want to create something new from this frequency. So that's what the healing code of forgiveness is all about. If you want to know more about my work, or if you want to connect with me, please go to estermail.com. And you'll be able to sign up for my meditations. You'll be able to sign up for the content that I'm putting out. I'm getting ready to launch a YouTube channel. You'll have that information as well. And for those of you who've heard something today and you're like, man, I really want to do this. I'm really ready to do this. I need some one-on-one time with Ester. I am completely available for private sessions. So please email me. I know I'm giving you 2 calls to action. So first, to sign up for Soul Recovery for my stuff is estermail.com. To connect with me personally, to set up a 20-minute free consultation to see how I can serve you, please email me at Ester, E-S-T-E-R, at esternicholson.com. Ester at esternicholson.com. And also, you can always get my book, Soul Recovery, 12 Keys to Healing Dependence, on Amazon.com. So it has been my pleasure working with you today, speaking with you about forgiveness, and I can't wait to hear your questions and comments. So I want everyone to take a deep breath. In fact, just grab your wrist, inhale deeply, and exhale on peace. Inhale deeply, and exhale on peace. Now, beloveds, not to trigger you, but in a way I do want to trigger you. But my real intention is to show you, is to give you an experience of freedom in the moment. I want you to think of your deepest resentment right now, like just something that you're just so pissed off, so angry at this person, at this experience, at whatever's going on. And I just want you to think of one person or one situation so that the waters don't get muddied. Think of the pain that you are in about this person. You might even resent yourself. You might resent God. Doesn't matter. Whoever you resent, I want you to just think about the pain, the anguish, the disappointment, the betrayal, the abandonment that you're feeling right now. And I want you to feel it as strongly as possible. Don't edit it in any way. And on a scale from 0 to 10, just say quietly to yourself, with 10 being the most painful, where are you right now? Okay? So now that we have that information, stay there in those emotions right now. And I want you to look at me. And now I want you to look slightly up to your third eye. Don't strain. Just relax. Just bring your attention there. And I want you to start tapping with your 2 index fingers on your perineal gland, your third eye. And I want you to repeat after me, eliminating all emotions of helplessness, hopelessness, and powerlessness, letting it go. Inside of your eyebrow, releasing and letting go all emotions of fear, of anxiety, of overwhelm, of shame, of frustration, of rage, of anger. Side of your eye, letting it go. Under your eye, it's safe to let this go now. I don't have to figure it out. I'm just letting it go. Chin, it's safe to let this go now. Collarbone, I deserve to let this go now. Releasing and letting it go. Grab your wrist. Inhale deeply. Exhale, peace. And now I want you to give yourself a few seconds to think a happy thought. What is something that would just thrill you, or something that is thrilling you, something that just makes you so happy? Just go to that place, something that just really turns you on. I want you to imagine that it's already happening. Feel the joy, the bliss, the gratitude, the happiness of that. Just feel that. Whatever that is, feel the joy of that right now. Your dream has come true. You're in the dream. You're living the dream. Feel it. Inhale deeply. Exhale, peace. Now go back to that resentment. You are pissed off. This person, how dare they do this to you? You are so disappointed. You're so angry. You're so sad. You're so upset. And on a scale from 0 to whatever number you put down before, where are you now? Okay? Let's go back to these tapping points. I'm going to do something really silly, and I want you to just follow me right now, okay? Because we know Esther can be silly, right? And I want you to get silly too. What we're doing is we're interrupting the wiring in your hard drive, right? By doing this, right? So we're going to get really silly right now. I want you to sing happy birthday like a duck. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. Underneath your eye. Start laughing. Your chin. Collarbone. Letting go. Letting go. Inhale deeply. Exhale. Peace. Go back to that resentment. Feel everything that resentment has meant to you. What this person did to you, what you think this person did to you, what you think this person is doing, all of that. And on a scale from 0 to wherever you are now, where are you? Okay, one more round. Come back here to your third eye. Whatever that number is, I'm letting it go. Everything that it represents, I'm letting it go. Inside of your eyebrow, letting go of every vow, every agreement, every chain, every anchor, every root cause that reinforces this resentment. I'm letting it go. I'm letting go of this resentment. I'm letting go of the need for this resentment. Side of your eye, I'm letting go of the belief that I need to hold on to this resentment in order to stay safe. Under your eye, I'm already safe. I'm already the beloved. I'm already enough. I'm safe. It's safe to let this go. Chin, letting it go. Grab your wrist. Inhale deeply. Exhale, peace. Now I want you, from this place, I want you to just affirm, I'm enough. I've always been enough. I forgot, but now I remember. I've always been beautiful. I've always been enough. I've always been brilliant. I've always been genius. Inside of your eyebrow, I've always been enough. I've always been worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm clear. I'm centered. Under your eye, I'm empowered. I'm confident. I'm the real me. I remember now. I'm the real me. Chin, letting go of anything that's unlike that. Collarbone, remembering who I am. Inhale deeply. Exhale, peace. So of course, the tapping goes so much deeper than that, but I want to honor the time that we have here today. But I'd like to know that you've experienced a shift from 10 to a 5, from a 5 to a 0. So I'm looking forward to hearing how that has shifted you in any way in this short time that we did this exercise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. I love every time you do EFT with us. So thank you. And I just want to say that EFT is a cornerstone in your work, but it's not all of your work. So if you explore Esther's work, and especially if you get her book, for instance, Soul Recovery, you'll see that there's so much more to it. But EFT is a proven method. So we quite love it. And I went from a 5 to a 2.
Yay, great. So with that 2, then when we get off this call, Dawn, I want you to take a moment and like letting go of that 2 and everything that it represents. Because that 2 is still holding on to a story. It's still holding on to thinking that's your safety. Letting go of that 2, releasing it and letting it go. Everything that it means, letting it go, letting it go.
I think the really powerful moment for me was when you asked us to kind of go to that place where we have all the joy. And so I went there. It just happened to be a villa in Mexico because it's just one of the places I love. And I almost felt like tearing up because I felt so much joy. And in that place, when I was in that place, like I was just getting these downloads, these messages that like that resentment, it doesn't matter.
Good.
Like it just doesn't matter. You don't have to, you know what, if I could be feeling this instead, then I can let that go. So
Right.
very powerful.
We want to practice that energy more than, so in the tapping, we've deinstalled the virus, but what people do is go back and get the virus. So if you can keep finding those happy places, like all throughout the day, it takes only 60 seconds to hang out in a happy place, which will then create another memory of another happy place, that's the law of attraction. Just like the more we hang out in resentment and pain, you know, that saying, when it rains, it pours. So then another traumatic event is going to happen, or another resentment is going to happen, right? So we can do the same thing with our happy thoughts. Not being in denial, not being all woo-woo, you know, about, you know, this stuff, but using these practical tools that work. The dynamic power of your mind, what it can uncreate and what it can create.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, community, for being so courageous. Forgiveness work, I think, is the most courageous work we will ever do, right? Because we are conditioned to believe that we need other people to change in order for us to be free, or that we need other people to apologize in order for us to be free. So to really take this compassionate accountability and to start healing your unconscious agreements and really acknowledging where you are stuck, where you're hurting, where you're on the floor in the fetal position, and taking that person and putting them over here and looking at those wounds independently of that person or that circumstance is so courageous, beloveds.
And we appreciate and love you so much. I cannot wait until we are in Miami. Esther will be one of our speakers in Miami. You know, we were with her in Nashville this last summer. We want to come back to Nashville. There's just so much we want to do with you. You're just like, as with all of our coaches, such an integral part of what we do here. We thank you for your time, for the generosity of your spirit, and we love you. She Recovers Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit public charity. We connect, support, and empower women through our virtual platforms and in-person community networks. If you feel inspired to learn more about us or become a supporter, please visit www.sherecovers.org. We're all recovering from something. We may be in recovery from one or more of the following: substance use disorders, including alcohol use disorder and opioid use disorder; trauma, including intergenerational trauma, racial trauma, religious trauma; codependency; anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders; eating disorders and other food-related issues; grief and loss, including divorce or job loss; burnout from caregiving or overworking; love or sex addiction; sexual, emotional, or physical abuse. If you are a woman, cisgender, or transgender, or a non-binary individual who identifies with women's communities, and if you are in recovery or seeking recovery, you are welcome here.